Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Man to Man. I'm your host, Hugo Ribatika. Interesting conversation that we have for you today. As always, we're talking about marriage and perspectives on men in marriage. Kidwell Ndhuku, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on to Man to Man.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Always nice to have conversations with you.
So here's a man who's been married 39 years, and for 22 years you've been advising young couples on marriage.
Exactly, yes.
So what are the most common issues that you think men face in marriage in Zimbabwe or across the world?
The thing is, with marriage, there are three aspects that are important that need to be addressed. When people get into marriage, they don't know differences between themselves and women, which is a big issue. They also don't know that marriage has got stages. So there are 7 stages in marriage. From when you start, when you are dating, we call that stage honeymoon stage.
All right.
Then the aspects of what marriage is. Most people, when they get into marriage, we prepare couples for Christian marriages. So there are 5 aspects of what a Christian marriage is. So we need to make men understand that. Because there are some people get into marriage thinking that they go into marriage to be served. They forget that when you go into marriage, it's a commitment for you, on the other hand, to serve. So there are those 3 aspects. Once you understand them, it gives you a lighter landing in marriage.
So are men generally surprised during the time where they are being prepared for marriage at some of these issues that you raise?
Yes, they are. Because remember, it's how you are raised that then determines what sort of married men you become. Most men have been raised to be alpha males, to think that in the marriage, the women should be subservient to them. That does not quite work in a marriage situation. But if you have been raised where your parents have allowed you to cook, to make your own bed, to arrange your own clothes in your wardrobe, and to do certain chores in the home. When you get into marriage, you are prepared for that. You can cook for your wife, and without feeling that it emasculates you. It will be normal to you. But most men think that they are being emasculated, especially when they go into the diaspora, where chores have to be shared. They think that their wives are emasculating them. So as a result, it causes a lot of tension.
Well, there are traditional gender roles, right? Which might vary dependent on your location. So if you are based in rural Zimbabwe, based in Harare or Bulawayo, based in Joburg or overseas, as you then say, those traditional gender roles will vary.
Yeah, your values, yes. Your socialization process is part of what we are preparing people for. That you have been socialized to think that marriage should go in a certain way. But of those 5 things we're talking about now, we're explaining to them that no, marriage is not just coming in, it's a vocation. A vocation is you have to work at it.
Hard.
Very hard, because for the first 5 years in marriage, most people are not happy. So because we're saying it's a vocation, we are saying you should work at it. Because we're saying it's a covenant. It's not a contract. It's not a partnership.
So what are those 5 stages? I mean, you talked about 5 stages, I think it is. Walk us through those stages.
Of the 7 stages of marriage.
7 stages.
The first one is the honeymoon phase. When you're taking someone to the movies, when you're enjoying life as a man. And the bad thing about the honeymoon phase is that you don't talk about serious issues, like your bank accounts, where your children are going to go to school. You don't talk a lot about those values. Then as a result, you start your marriage thinking that it's all going to be fine, because it's been fine when you've been boyfriend and girlfriend. Then once you get married, you go into the realization phase. You know, that realization phase, where you realize that your wife is, when they're taking toothpaste out of the tube, they are taking it from the top. When all your life you're taking it from the bottom. The wife realizes that the guy leaves his clothes all over the place, all of a sudden. They had been boyfriend and girlfriend. The realization was not there. Then because the realization is coming now, you're saying, oh, this is what I've signed up for, and you have not been told about it, it causes problems. You go to the next stage where men normally don't survive easily. It's called the power struggle phase. The power struggle phase is when now you're saying my values should be the one that prevail in this home. And at the same time, the wife is saying, my dad never did that. It's really power struggle. You're trying to rearrange the furniture. And at that time, marriages go through a lot of stress and strain.
How many years into the marriage does this phase normally kick in?
It kicks in quite fast because you're trying to live with someone whose values are totally different from yours. So where you thought that this is going to happen to me, they are saying, no, you should pick up after yourself. Your mother was allowing you not to pick up after yourself. Your mother maybe was making your bed for you, and the lady saying, I'm going to work today very fast. Can you make the bed honey with a honey into it? And I'm saying, but that's not my role now. You're going back to the gender roles. She should be doing that. You know, she should cook for me. She should serve me breakfast. When I come home late, my father used to come home late, and his food was warmed by my mother. This lady saying, I'm sleeping, you should warm your own food. So that's the power struggle phase. And people are not prepared for it. So when men feel that they are not being respected, sometimes they bail out. That's why you find that in most early marriages, that first 5 years, the guy is thinking that it's more comfortable to be with my buddies in the bar because I'm not facing this disrespect. And
is it disrespect though? Or is it an interpretation?
It's an interpretation of what's happening because it's coming from a value system. You know, when I used to get to Gweru, where my mother used to stay, at 12 midnight, she would wake up and warm my food. You know, my wife does not do that. So that value system now, you're looking at it and saying it's respect. But when you've been married 39 years, like I have, you have gone through the motions now. You now understand
you bring your own uncooked chicken, your own wufu, and you make your own meal.
Make your own meal, yeah, because you can't wait. You know, but over the years, you are accepting the fact that marriage is a commitment to serve the other person. You know, the Christian marriage is difficult because it takes you to the fundamental. No greater love, because it's Christian marriage, than a man who died for you. So it's saying even in marriage, you should serve each other.
But what about marriages that are not founded on
Christianity?
Maybe not founded on Christianity, but where when two not Christians get into marriage, right? And promise each other, I do, in sickness or in health. I think it's a conversation that I'd like us to have when we come back from the break. You're watching Man to Man. I'm in conversation with Kidwell, man married for 39 years, been preparing couples for marriage for the last 22 years and packing for us some of the challenges that men can face in marriage. You're watching Man to Man. Don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. I'm in conversation with Kidwell Ndhuku, a man who's been in the marriage space for many, many years. Kidwell, before the break, you'd walked us through, I think, 3 stages of marriage, 4 stages. Just walk us through the remaining stages before we talk about some of the issues around some of the pressures that men face in marriage.
Yes. We had spoken about the honeymoon phase, the realization phase, the power struggle and rebellion phase. After that power struggle and rebellion phase comes the cooperation. Then after that, reunion, explosion, and completion. So it's a 7-stage process.
Explosion. Sounds scary. What stage is that?
Explosion now is meaning that your love is exploding.
All right. So it's positive.
It's a positive explosion. You're now appreciating the other person. But you see that it takes a bit of time because we're human beings. And being human beings, the socialization process makes us who we are. So how you've been socialized, how you have seen the relationship between your dad and your mom, whether, like you rightfully point out, you grow up in the suburbs or in the townships or in the rural areas, affects your socialization process and how you see marriage. Even in church, if you socialize in rural areas, you can't quite sit with your wife in church. Men sit one side, women sit in another side. So that socialization process and the fact that we are different, I think the book is out there. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so because we're different people in our makeup, because men are funny in terms of how their mind is made up. They can only concentrate on one variable at a time. That's why I find that when you are partying, I say to you, focus on the speed when we're playing golf. Because you're a man. You can't focus on the line and the speed at the same time. But a woman can focus on 3-4 variables. They can be knitting, talking about the children and talking about school at the same time. So the fights that come is when you are not understanding the makeup of the other person.
So how do men then understand the makeup of the other person before they leave the marriage? Because I think
before they go into the marriage.
No, before they leave the marriage, because you're in the marriage, right? And you are faced with this dilemma of, I don't understand this woman. She's from Venus, I'm from Mars, right? So you know what? Let me leave, right? So my question is, at what point or how? What are the skill sets that you need to be able to understand your partner?
The preparation for marriage is important, because then we explain to you, Hugo, that when your wife says the light is not working, she does not mean when you and me are living together as men and something is not working in the house, we can live with it for 2 weeks without a problem and we fix it. When the grass is growing, when a woman says the grass is not okay, she means stand up immediately and go and mow it. When the light is not working the way they are made up, they mean fix it now. So the preparation for marriage is telling you that when your woman goes out of the house and she comes back with her hair changed, you should make a special effort to see what has changed on her. Because for her, she's a feeling person. If she changes her hair and you don't see it, it's a big issue for her. If she goes with one dress and comes back with another and you don't realize it, it's a hell of a big issue for her. So the preparation for marriage is telling you the differences.
Yeah, but Kidwell, yes. So how long did it take you to learn all of these things? Because I'm sure when you got into marriage, even though you might have prepared for it, a lot of this was still new to you in the marriage.
Unfortunately for me, I was not prepared for marriage. I lived with my wife for quite a lot of time without the preparation. I learned about marriage preparation when I joined Couples for Christ in 2003. But I'd been married since 1986. So obviously, some of the problems were
So you had lots of apologizing to do.
Yeah, of course, because I thought I was being emasculated at the early stages of our marriage. I thought I was being disrespected. And I could have bailed out. But thank God I stayed in until I started understanding those basics. That, okay, when my wife is saying this, she means this. And I became more tolerant. I then also realized all that which Ephesians was talking about, that I should love her as Jesus loved me. So it changed my perspective. And that change, the turnaround, both for men and women, is very difficult. Because most women don't know that men are unidimensional. You can't discuss with them the bank account, the school, and where the children are going in one sentence. Because they are unidimensional. Their box is one at a time. And they've got the nothing box, which irritates women. Because sometimes you say to your husband, what are you thinking about? He says, nothing. Most women say, how can someone not be thinking of anything? But you know that with men, we do some dead brain sports like fishing and drinking beer. You know? Women have to understand that sometimes, for sure, my husband is thinking of nothing because he's in that box where he doesn't want to think about anything. But now, if you understand your differences and how your mind is made up, you start meeting halfway. You know that I'm acting because of understanding where she comes from. She's from Venus. She can multitask. I can't. So once you start understanding each other, it gives you a softer landing. But remember, marriage, no one goes to school first. You learn as you go. And you can imagine when you are young.
Yeah.
So
Despite the levels of preparation, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to run into that you actually haven't been prepared for. Now, how can men balance being both a provider and an emotionally present father?
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'll give you a typical example. Many times I'll be driving to work in the early hours of the morning, right? And I would see men that were cycling to work, for instance, security guards, right? Cycling to work before dawn, before the break of dawn, and way after dusk, they're cycling home. Yeah. So literally, these men are leaving home before the kids wake up, at home after the kids have gone to bed, and this is repeated over and over again. Okay. So how do they strike a balance?
That is a very difficult balance to strike, because remember, at the end of the day, we also advise youth, and the biggest problem that we do as men is then to forget to spend time with the children. We advise that the dialogue between husband and wife, 1 hour at least per week. That because we've had children, the youth, saying, I don't know my dad. I've grown up in this house. My dad is always out looking for money to preserve. We think it's presumably to look after those children, but then the relationship is no longer there. So that cycling and coming back late, if you don't balance it on your off days, to have that 1 hour of dialogue with each of your children, you lose each other. If you lose the hour to have dialogue with your wife, you lose each other. The 1 hour per week, per person in your household. Very, very crucial.
Something that's also crucial is issues around infidelity and sexual intimacy that we're going to come back to in a moment. You're watching Man to Man. Don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Man to Man in conversation with Kidwell Ndhuku. Kidwell, before the break, you talked about a number of issues, but what also came out is, well, certainly what I would like to ask is issues around infidelity and sexual intimacy. So let's start off with the infidelity issues. What are some of the primary issues that lead to infidelity?
The main issues it's around which we don't discuss during the honeymoon phase. Things like where are the children going to school, the money issues, how are we going to run our accounts, and all those issues that should be put on the table prior to actual marriage. We don't talk about those things. Then as a result, when you engage in them, especially money, if you've got divergent views of what to do, and you're always quarreling, one of you will find comfort in someone they're not quarreling with. I'm talking both men and women, because most people think that is the man who go out, but it's both parties who go out. Because in that power struggle phase, you are fighting all the time. If a man feels emasculated in his own home, guess what is going to happen, Hugo? There will be another woman who does not want to emasculate him, who puts him on a pedestal and treats him as a king. And once that happens, we are human beings and we are natural. So what do? We go where we are being treated as kings, where we are getting a cold beer and a hot shower if we are being emasculated. The same happens with women. If they want certain things from their men in terms of provision, because men's roles is provision, protection, and guidance in the home. So if they're not getting the things they think you should provide, and someone just lands it on their lap, there is a chance for infidelity there. So it's important to watch out for it, because it comes when you're unaware, because of the fights you are having during that power struggle phase. You can find yourself drifting further and further apart, to the extent that you're calling each other names When you get to that stage, once something goes out of your mouth, it's difficult to get it back. And the person will remember it when they're going out, this person, who do they think they are to tell me what they've just told me now? And someone else is there to give you a soft landing. Someone is there to comfort you. And that causes infidelity in most marriages.
Now, I read something just a few days ago where someone said, regardless of who you are, everyone has capacity to be unfaithful. And a lot of that unfaithfulness stems from proximity to someone, right, who will then offer you a bosom, right, or a cold beer, or a hot, or a warm bath, or hot shower. Now, how does one prevent themselves from getting to a place where, in the event that you and your missus are not getting along or are fighting, that the first port of call is not another woman?
It's difficult because human beings, the biggest thing that we have as human beings is weakness. So from a Christian perspective, we always say, without the grace of God, it's difficult to live a marriage. That's why in the Catholic Church, we call it a sacrament. So as a sacrament, we are saying that you need God's intervention for you to live marriage according to how it should be lived. It's not an easy thing. You need the power of the Holy Spirit. You need divine inspiration for you to avoid what is right in front of you. So it's not a thing that we can just say, it's easy. You can run away from it without the intervention of God.
But what are the things that you're doing within your power? So fully agree that we need grace, we need salvation, we need help of a higher power in order to prevent what might be the inevitable. But as a man, right, what are the things that you should put in place to ensure
how we prepare people for marriage is to tell them to see the signpost that they are moving towards infidelity. So in our preparation talks, we do 6 talks. One of them is focusing on that these are the signposts. If you see these signposts are coming.
What are some of those signposts, Kidwell?
You are drifting towards infidelity. Once you feel that you are in your home, you are not being respected as a man, and you are being emasculated, if you take it to heart and say it's actually happening, when it's your own interpretation, you're already halfway going there.
But isn't your interpretation your reality?
Your reality. Yes, but if you are told by other men how they've avoided the pitfalls, it helps. It could not be 100% foolproof, but it helps for you to see. Because the areas where you are most likely tempted are pointed out. You find that I'll tell you that, Hugo, whatever happens, don't go out with someone at your place of work. A PA, a work colleague, then I give you the reasons. When you go to church, that's another place where temptation is ready for you there.
Ironically.
Yes. Someone will tell you that, I see you here all the time, and this, that. Conversations start. So the key places where you could go the other way are highlighted to you. When you go with mates, that's why you find that in the marriage preparation, we say, once you are married, try and get people who are married as buddies. Because if I go out with you when I'm not married, I want us to hit the next nightclub. All those places are places of temptation. So because I'm single, you find that single men who are our friends have a tendency to throw the temptations towards us. If you understand what I'm saying. So we give you those as safeguards. Whether you follow through with them, at least you know. Okay.
So let's move on to the next issue, and that's the issue around sexual dissatisfaction for men in marriages. And, mismatched libidos, for instance. I mean, countless times you read stories, you run into memes that talk about, not today, I have a headache, etc., etc. And a lot of men feel deprived in the bedroom.
Yes. That, from a Christian perspective, it's fortunate that the Bible is our sexual manual. In 1 Corinthians 3, verse 7, it says, once you are married, your body is not yours to the man. And as a woman, your body is not yours. You can only deny each other conjugal rights when you are praying. So in other words, you can't have the headache. You can't have the stomachache. You can't have. Then, of course, key to sexual satisfaction is communication in marriage. Because I can't know what goes for you until you tell me. So that open communication of what you feel and where is critical for men and for women. Most people think that men are energized already. There are many times that they are not. So women have to understand that there are certain touch points for men as well, so that it's on even killed. But that comes out of communication. So the man who is married and the woman, you have to communicate. But remembering what I said in the scripture, that once you get married, your body is not yours. It belongs to your wife.
Kidwell, there are obviously a lot more issues that we could have discussed, would have liked to have spoken to you for much longer, but we are definitely going to call you back on Man to Man. Thank you for making time.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Always good, always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
We'd obviously love to hear your thoughts and contributions in the comments section below. I'm Hugo Robertica. You've been watching this episode of Man to Man. Look forward to the pleasure of your company at the very same time next week. Remember, we leave no man behind. Goodbye.